Good morning, friends. Welcome to Rise. My name is Nancy. I am Formation Coordinator here at Rise. I am filling in for Amanda, who has amazing music. Good morning, friends. Welcome to Rise. My name is Nancy. I am Formation I'll fix that. I am filling in for Amanda Garber, who has been blessed to have her second COVID shot. Hopefully you all are able to find the recent influx. There are a lot of places to get shots. I am filling in for her so that she can rest. And please feel free to use the chat below or to the side. We have a virtual greeter today. The wonderful Amy Martin will be greeting today. And if you have any questions, or please use the chat to engage in conversation as well as we get into our theological exploration. If you learn anything here today in your time here with us, I want you to leave with this. You are a gift. Your life has meaning. Your life has purpose. We are thankful that you are here. You have things to do and people to connect with. Thank you for spending your time with us here today. We're so glad you're here. You could be so many places, but you're here, and we are very, very thankful. So please leave here and remember to be a gift to those around you. Be a gift to yourself. Thank you for sharing your gift. I'd like to transition into a time we call, what do you need? This is our way of asking, what can we do to help you? How can we help you just finish all the things that you need to do? If you need help with your lawn, you need help getting groceries, please let us know. There should be a magical box that pops up on your screen. Fill that out. These are kept in the utmost of confidence, just so you know. Prayer team keeps everything very confidential. But yes, let us know. How can Rise be a gift to you? Please let us know in this box. At this time, I'd like to introduce the amazing Adam King. He's going to come and lead us in a time of prayer. Adam.
I am muted. I have been talking and I was muted. Oh, okay. I'm going to start over. My name's Adam King, and I am a friend of Rise, and I'm so happy to be with you this morning. Apologies for forgetting to turn on my microphone. I feel very foolish. At this time, we're going to move into a time of prayer together. And so if whatever you need in this time, I invite you to give that to yourself. So if during prayer you need to close your eyes and center and breathe, I would invite you to do so. If you want to look at the screen or look out the window, sip your tea and coffee, that is fine as well. You need to tend to a child, or simply just move around your room, that is fine as well. There is no right way. It's simply a time to listen for the voice of God, to offer our concerns, our petitions, our prayers, and to simply be in the presence. So I would invite you now to adopt any posture that you. Let's pray. God of love and grace, we are so thankful for this opportunity to come together, even in this virtual space, to worship, to listen, to learn, to love one another, to ask hard questions, to simply be together, and to be with God. We pray that you would send your Spirit to be among us this time, that we would feel and know that you are in our midst. You would communicate to us through one another, deep in our hearts. God, many of us come to this time, our hearts and our minds, our spirits heavy with doubt and concern. We pray that this would be a space where we could express and explore the doubt, that we can safely and freely acknowledge where we are truly, and know with full confidence that you will meet us in that place. We thank you that we don't have to strive, that we don't have to work harder to be in your presence, for you are always. Help us turn our spirit's eye upon you. Help us look to one another for your love. And help us to be a gift to those around us, in the same way that your Son, Jesus, was a gift to us. In his life, in his teaching, in his example, in his death, and in his defeat of death. We give you thanks and praise this day. Amen.
Amen. Thank you so much, Adam, for that time of centering. Thank you for unmuting your microphone. I appreciate you. At this time, we want to transition into our time of offering. I do want to let you know, I don't have numbers, but March was a very strong month. So thank you. Thank you for thinking of Rise. Thank you for your generosity. We appreciate every giving that we get. We do accept Venmo, PayPal. We are still accepting checks. We are still checking the mailbox. Now, I do want to let you know, if you are sending a check, it might take a little bit longer to deposit, as we don't check the mailbox as frequently right now. But we still are, so please be patient with us. But please remember Rise in your giving, and we continue to be blessed by you all. So I want to introduce our first song. And I think this song fits where we're at right now so well. This song is called Lost in My Mind, and it will be performed by Amy. And it speaks very much about being present in the present and not trying to look forward to the future and build plans on things that haven't happened yet. So performing Lost in My Mind, here is the wonderful Amy.
about me.
Hello, friends.
Hello,
So-
friends.
How are you doing, Nancy?
I'm well. How are you, Adam?
So far today, you've met me, and I both muted and unmuted, and you've met Nancy. I want to introduce you all to our dear friend, Ashlyn Johns, who is just incredible, and we're super excited to have her with us today. It's been a long time since I've had a chance to talk to you, Ashlyn. You get the bell of approval from the man behind the curtain. So how are you doing, Ashley?
I'm good. It's so good to be back, even though I can't see everyone. I know that everyone's there, and that feels warm. So it's really nice to be here. Thank you for letting me talk with you.
Absolutely. For those of you who remember the old days when we actually met at 60 West together, Ashlyn has been a faithful leader at Rise, running our sound board and other stuff with the band. So she knows a little something about mics not working. And yeah. Wow, that was ridiculously I feel like Chris had that ready to go. Man. All right.
I was just waiting.
So
Knew he would need it at some point.
when I'm on screen, there needs to be a trombone. I should probably just have someone follow me with a trombone frame. Well, today we are starting a new series. All right. Yes, Chris is having fun with TV. So today we are starting a new series. We celebrated Easter this past Sunday, and here's the fun thing about Easter is it doesn't end with one day. We are in the season of Easter as a church, and so we are continuing to celebrate new life. But as we acknowledged last week, this new life is also a time of confusion and disorientation. So while there's this joy that comes with new life and resurrection, there's also the befuddlement of wondering, now what? What do we do now that everything has changed or is changing? And the path forward seems uncertain and seems maybe hopeful, but also daunting. And so today we're going to kind of begin exploring this question of what do we do when we don't know what. So as we begin today, I want to start us off reading the text that we're going to be using to kind of try to make sense, begin to make sense of life after resurrection. And it's a story that happens soon after the Easter, Jesus' resurrection with his disciples. And you'll find this story in the book of John, chapter 20. And to set this up, again, it says it was still the first day of the week. We'll get to reading in a second, but that to give some setup, that means we're still on Easter day. So this is still the day that Jesus wrote, the day that they found the tomb empty. So this is kind of, we're in the heat of it. And so that's where we're picking up with this. So again, this is John 20. I'm reading from the Common English Bible. It was still the first day of the week. That evening, while the disciples were behind closed doors, because they were afraid of the Jewish authorities, Jesus came and stood among them. He said, "Peace be with you." After he said this, he showed them his hands and his side. When the disciples saw the Lord, they were filled with joy. Jesus said to them again, "Peace be with you. As the Father sent me, so I am sending you." Then he breathed on them and said, "Receive the Holy Spirit. If you forgive anyone's sins, they are forgiven. If you don't forgive them, they aren't forgiven." Thomas, the one called Didymus, one of the 12, wasn't with the disciples when Jesus came. The other disciples told him, "We've seen the Lord." But he replied, "Unless I see the nail marks in his hands, put my finger in the wounds left by the nails, and put my hand into his side, I won't believe." After 8 days, his disciples were again in a house, and Thomas was with them. Even though the doors were locked, Jesus entered and stood among them. He said, "Peace be with you." Then he said to Thomas, "Put your finger here. Look at my hands. Put your hand into my side. No more disbelief. Believe." Thomas responded to Jesus, "My Lord and my God." Jesus replied, "Do you believe because you see me? Happy are those who don't see and yet." Then Jesus did many other miraculous signs in his disciples' presence, signs that aren't recorded. So, friends, what are your initial observations hearing this story? Is there anything that stands out to you kind of immediately as you read it? Or something that maybe you just piques your interest? Ashlyn?
Yeah, I think something that stands out to me is that when the disciples saw Jesus, he showed them like the marks, his wounds. But then when Thomas was told that they saw him and they were super excited, and said, "Until I see it, I won't believe."
Yeah.
And then he's kind of called out for not believing. I think it's just interesting, that dichotomy, because like the disciples did see for themselves. So I wonder if they didn't see for themselves, if they would have been in disbelief also.
Interesting. Yeah. That's a fabulous question. When I read this story, and I've read this story a lot, it's one that it's pretty Christian world. Um, one of the things that stands out to me in the story initially is uh, the speed at which everything is happening.
Hmm.
So I mentioned like it was that first day, and then it was a week later, and I think about how fast it all must have been, right? Like, and how overwhelming that may have been. Just trying to make sense of things, like that shouldn't be happening. That doesn't make sense, and the whiplash that you go through emotionally, that they must have gone through emotionally. From just absolute despair to this insane report that he's alive, and then trying to make sense of all of it. I could only imagine what that would feel like. And I think about some of the weeks that we've had this past year, of just the speed at which things were coming at us.
Mm-hmm.
And so, yeah, that's kind of what stands out to me on this one. There's plenty of other things to talk about, but that's kind of my initial observations. The pace of activity. Nancy, how about you? Any thoughts?
Yeah, I think it's interesting. I do want to let people know, by the way, that I will be monitoring the chat while we're having this discussion. So please comment. Please give us your thoughts and opinions. We'd love to pull that in. We love the interaction. So please use the chat. I think about this story, I think most of us would be in the same situation, right? This is an incredible event that has happened, unlike anything ever. How many, I feel like I would need to touch it and see it and feel it and smell it too, because that's who we are. I mean, we don't trust. We trust our experiences and our senses more often than having faith in things unseen. And it also strikes me that of all the things Thomas did, this is what he's known for. He's known for doubting. The doubting Thomas.
Yeah, that's actually a really good segue. It's like you read the questions that I sent.
I may have done my research.
You may have. No, I think that's a really good point. So, when most people hear, especially again, if you're raised in the church at all, but honestly, even if you're not raised in the church, the moniker "Doubting Thomas" has become a phrase that I think actually exists even outside of the Christian faith. So, poor Thomas of Didymus is been given this title, Doubting Thomas, that has followed him for 2,000 plus years. Part of me kind of wonders if poor Thomas is in paradise going, shaking his fist. That's all I'll ever be known for. Why, you'll only ever know me as Doubting Thomas. Does that moniker seem fair? Yeah, does it seem fair that the only thing this dude is known for is doubting because of this one incident? And why do you think that might be? Why has this so captured? I mean, obviously he's not called Doubting Thomas at any point in the text. We, the readers, give him that title. So, is it fair, and why do we do that? What's going on here? Any thoughts?
Yeah, I don't think it's super fair that he gets placed with that title, but I think it's fair that he doubted, or that he had some disbelief. Like Nancy
Sure.
said, I think anyone in that situation would have been a little bit in disbelief, a little bit doubtful.
Yeah.
But the fact that he gets stuck with that in mind, knowing that we all probably would, like show and exhibit similar doubt to that situation. Yeah. Like, I think it's not really fair that he got stuck with that title, right? But I kind of almost wonder if part of the reason why it's stuck, I have a couple thoughts. So first, maybe it's stuck, that title, just because it is kind of relatable. Like, we also doubt, and so maybe we relate with that, and so we kind of place that title to remember that it's okay to doubt. Or maybe it's through the ordering of the way the story was told. So at the beginning, we knew that Jesus was there and rose, and then he doubted. So, like, as readers, we knew that it was true, but he doubted. And so that probably stuck out as him being the only one that doubted. Yeah. Like, he just would get placed in that headline.
Yeah. There's a lot of shame, I think, wrapped up in that. You know, that phrase "doubting Thomas," as it's carried through society, is not a generally positive one. And we're going to talk about, I think, why it can be really important and valuable to wrestle with that. But I'm intrigued by this idea of doubting Thomas as almost a slur, or as a put down. It worries me that that's the case, and it has been for so long. But I think we have to come to grips with the fact that this idea of doubting Thomas is something that we can't just assume is a good thing, and because the world doesn't. And I wonder why that is. Nancy, do you have any thoughts on why doubt or doubting in the Christian world, especially, but maybe beyond? Why is Thomas kind of put down?
There's some wonderful commentary actually about this in the chat.
Yeah, I would love to hear that.
One comment that I read that was fantastic was that Thomas needed proof, because if it wasn't true, then it would be like losing Jesus all over again. And I thought that was an interesting thought. Another was that we kind of assign this moniker to Thomas to kind of separate ourselves from him and from that. Assigning him that one characteristic to hold kind of allows us to separate ourselves from our doubt. And I think that was an interesting spin on that.
Wow. Yes, that's fantastic. It's almost like a deflection, right? Like, we see that in ourselves, but we don't want to acknowledge that, so we put it on that. So we keep using this word doubt, and one of the other thing I noticed when we were preparing for this is, at least in this translation, there's not actually mention of the word doubt. Now, I didn't have a chance to go look at the Greek. My suspicion, and this is pure suspicion, is that the point where it says no more disbelief, believe, that Jesus kind of says to no more disbelief, believe, that Jesus says to Thomas. That word belief or believe is or disbelief is the word that could be translated as doubt. But I'm fascinated by the fact that this word belief or disbelief and doubt, are they? Do we think that they're synonymous? Is doubt disbelief, or is it something else? Because if we conflate the two, I think we run into some really interesting situations. So, fundamentally, can someone have doubts but still believe? Are they in? Yeah. Are they one and the same? So, Ashlyn, do you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I do. Yeah, I was thinking on this question, and I kind of came, and this is just my own thoughts, is that it's almost like a spectrum, or it's at least that's how I kind of see it. And I see disbelief at the full end, and then maybe belief at the other full end. And I feel like doubt is belief, but with some hesitation. So I think you can believe and still have doubts. But I think that doubt also has to do with trust. So it's maybe you have some of that hesitation to that belief and you're not fully there. You have your doubts, but you're having to trust and just lean into that in order to believe or in order to go forward. So I think that you can have disbelief and doubt also.
Yeah.
But I think you can also believe and still have doubts.
I love the idea of a spectrum. That's actually really beautiful, and that's a concept I had put onto this disbelief, placing doubt as the in between of sorts. And so, yeah, that's kind of beautiful. Thank you for that. Image. That's actually really helpful. Nancy, do you have any thoughts on this? Doubt and disbelief, how they're related, how they're not? Anything from the chat?
Yeah, the chat is actually echoing very much how I feel about it, which is that, I mean, if you don't ever doubt, that basically the act of doubting is something that should strengthen your faith and your belief. That it's good to ask questions and to, understand in a way that makes sense to you, to try and seek, a resolution to any questions that you have, and where that is doubt. And there was one statement here that I loved from Roy, and it said, basically, let's stop the lie that doubt is disbelief.
Yeah, I agree. I really am concerned wholesale doubt, and that's why I really love what Ashland actually come up with here, because in a way, it's interesting to me. I've run into this in a lot of discussions with people about faith and about. In many ways, disbelief is in itself belief, right? Like it kind of. So not only is it a spectrum between belief and disbelief, it's almost a circle, right? It's just a disbelief, like a firm disbelief is just a belief in something else, right? Like a belief or a belief in a different truth than the thing you're talking about. So I one of the concerns I have is when we find ourselves in a state of pure belief or pure disbelief, we're no longer seeking truth. We've come to a conclusion. We've stopped. And so I think doubt, actually, in a way, as you were saying, Nancy, doubt is the process of seeking. Doubt is the questioning and the asking. What is true? Who can I believe? What can I believe? What evidence is important to me? And how do I make sense of it? And so, which brings us to this question of evidence. And I want to kind of start shifting us. We've already started to kind of move away from the text a little bit, which is good and fine. But so Thomas wanted evidence before he could state his belief. He wanted to see and touch the hands and the side. He wanted to actually see that it was a real body, that Jesus was actually alive, that they weren't, describing something else. or that they were making it up, or that it was a mass delusion, or whatever it might be. So that makes me wonder, what types of things in your life right now do you need evidence for in order to? And along with that, what do you feel like you could believe based on what other people say is true? So, what kind of things recently maybe have you run up against that you need hard evidence to before you're pitch your tent in that camp? What are you asking questions about? So I'm going to start with Ashlyn and give the chat a little bit of time to answer that question too before we come over to Nancy. So Ashlyn, any thoughts on, like, personally, what things do you need evidence for?
Yeah, I think that right now, especially, I'm stuck in this in between of both of those questions of like needing the evidence, but also having to trust and just go with what people say is true. In particular, like reference to where we're at with the pandemic. Like we're sort of in this transitional phase of things are like ending, kind of, but it's still bad, but we're kind of shifting into a new normal and we're starting to get vaccinated, and what does that mean? And so I think that for me, I feel like I need that evidence. Like I need to see the numbers of like, okay, this is safe. It's okay to go back to normal, whatever that might be now. But we kind of can't. Like we don't have that hard evidence. So we kind of, or at least I find myself having to trust just what the professionals are saying, the people who know this stuff more, what they're saying. And so it's a really, I get really tension in my head, just like this cognitive dissonance of like wanting that hard evidence, but for time's sake, we can't have that right now. Like it's also new. We're building the plane as we're flying, as people say, so having to just fall into that, trusting what people say. I think that I'm stuck in those just right now with with the pandemic and this transitional phase.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't know if you've found yourself doing this and during the pandemic. It's almost a daily ritual. It's not quite every day now, but this daily ritual of looking up the numbers, like checking case numbers, like looking at graphs. And it's interesting. I think there's some part of me that I think when I do that, I'm looking for evidence to confirm. Sometimes it's looking for evidence to confirm what I hope is true. I want to see the numbers going down, and so I go check to see if what I hope is true is happening, or kind of vice versa. Like I'm checking to know, like you were saying, is it safe? I check local numbers, or I check state numbers, I check national. But that's looking for evidence, because if you base your kind of belief around the pandemic, around just what people around you are saying, it would be really confusing, actually, because everyone's saying something different. It seems to me. So thank you for bringing up the kind of pandemic world that we live in, because I think that's a big piece of this right now. We're in this space of uncertainty around what we can believe. And for people getting vaccinated, everyone's looking like, what's the CDC say about what we can and can't do safely when we have a vaccine or we don't have a vaccine. There's a lot of confusion around this. We just don't know. Nancy, what are you thinking or hearing from the chat?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people are echoing similar statements of, trying to figure out, what new normal looks like. There was one statement that basically, even in an age of instant communication and knowledge availability, how we seem to doubt more as like a whole society. And some of that's just about the availability of that information, and how that allows us to question more because we are so used to understanding so thoroughly.
Yeah.
A lot of people basically talking about doubts with like COVID related things, vaccines, new normals, what society is going to look like kind of as we get out of this and lean into that new normal. And then one basically just said like, I'd like to know that we've learned from this, that we move on and progress as a society from this experience together.
Yeah. Yeah. Another thing I was thinking, so I was pondering, like, what are things that I need evidence for? So certainly the issues around kind of our national and world situation with COVID, but I was also pondering, what do I need in order to trust somebody? Right? Like, what do I need from that person to trust that they are telling me the truth? And so I think about who are the people that I believe, and why do I believe them? What is it about that person that is enough for me to believe? Because Katie and I were talking about this the other day when we were thinking about this passage, and I realized there is very little like large scale beliefs that for me are actually based on personal experience. We were talking about COVID. I've had some experience with it, very limited though. So then the question that comes for me, like, most of our evidence that we have is the word of someone else. So what do you find that you need from somebody? And it doesn't have to just be about COVID. This could be about just like daily life too, like people that you interact with. What does a person? What do you need from a person in order for them to be trusted? How do we determine who is trusted? Because ultimately, I think that's our evidence. Is who do we trust? So, any thoughts on that? Because I mean, this one I think is where it gets really tricky, in my opinion.
Yeah, so I can kind of start. When I hear this question, I also think of it beyond the individual too, and I think about like organizations or corporations that I don't know, I'm trying to be a more conscious consumer where I put my money. So I'm looking into like what brands and organizations I can trust too. And I think the two go hand in hand kind of with what I look for when I start to trust somebody or someone or something. And ultimately, I think for me, it comes down to transparency and consistency. So being open about what's happening. If I were to find out that some of something was hidden and wasn't all fully shared, then that would probably make me skeptical as to why. So I think for me, the biggest things are transparency, probably. And then when I say consistency, I mean just kind of upholding and staying true to the things that are being said. So if there's a lot of contradicting things happening or being said by someone or some company or organization, I guess, to make it bigger, then I'm less inclined to trust that, because how can you trust
Yeah.
something that's changing? But then I get stuck in this loop of if they're being transparent about the contradicting things that are coming up, then that's also what I'm asking for. So I
Yep.
think it takes on my end just being critical and being open and not just sticking to hearing one thing. Like, I want to be open to hearing other sides to what I maybe don't believe as much when I hear things. And then that'll help me hear more from others and decide. It's complicated though.
Yeah, no, it really is. And I, was doing a little. I was reading a article about vaccine hesitancy, and one of the interesting things that I saw in there as I was reading, because this is, they were interviewing a doctor who has worked with families for years, who have wrestled with whether or not to get their kids vaccinated for various like MMR, the kids vaccines that we all get with our kids. And one of the things that this doctor noted about what is effective in helping parents believe that it's safe is the word of, like, the word or the example of other family members. So I'm fascinated with the fact that we, many of us, we claim we trust experts, people that have dedicated their lives to things, but and so that's like the rational part of our brain. But I've also found often that who we believe is often an emotional decision too, and so for better or worse. And so I was pondering, like, what do I need in someone to believe in them? And increasingly, I found the people that I trust the most are the people with the integrity to say, I don't know. Or the integrity to say, I was wrong. I used to think this was true, but now I don't. And here's why. And the reason for that is, I don't. Some people maybe will see that as lacking conviction, but I see it as someone who actually is convicted to seek what's true. They allow their beliefs to come under scrutiny, and they're constantly reflecting on themselves and what they believe and what they have agreed to believe as being true, and that critical self-reflection to me is increasingly like what I look for. I want to see that in people. I want to see that people are have the integrity to say, I don't know the answer, but I'd like to know, and I'm gonna, I'll seek it out. Anyway, Nancy, what are we hearing from the chat today on this? Like, what are people saying that they need in order to trust someone?
I think the one word that has echoed the most in the comments has been consistency, and that echoes what Ashlyn, what you were saying about people standing up to scrutiny and being able to explain and answer questions and be okay with being questioned, right? Like, I mean, when you question somebody, so it was said that when you question someone and they're uncomfortable about that, that's an immediate trigger for distrust. If they're not open to information.
Yeah. So, to kind of, as we come to the close here, and Nancy, you mentioned someone who noted this. Our world is infinitely complex, and in many ways, it would be arrogant, or to say the least, to believe that we could know everything about our world. And so this world is complex and confusing, and I think it's actually become more so as more information has become available. And so I think about the generation that's growing up today that has the internet in their pocket at all times, has this like vast, ever-growing body of information at immediate disposal, and how that's changed the way we think about the world. And so we're bombarded with like, information and disinformation constantly, whether it's through media or just through our own exploration. And it can be hard to know what to believe or who can trust. So, with all that said, I wonder what can our community, the Rise community, do to support one another in our search for truth. You know, one of the things that I love about this community is that so many people, and I've heard it said over and over, so many people come to Rise with questions, with doubts, with concerns, with frustrations, and they've found, thankfully, I hear they found a place where they're able to wrestle with those freely without shame. But what can we do to continue that or strengthen that community to support one another as we search for truth? Thoughts on that, Ashlyn?
Yeah, this is tough. The idea of endless information and disinformation terrifies me, and I think that's why we're becoming so split and divided. So this question is so important in this time, especially. And I think what we can do genuinely is just stay open-minded, listen to others, like actively listen without thinking and preparing about what to respond with. Just listen to others while staying open-minded and just recognizing that everybody's kind of on their own journey, and your experiences, like my individual experiences, are going to be different than others. So by staying open to that and listening and hearing theirs, I think that's where truer support can come from, and connection building and learning from one another, kind of in this space of unknowing while we know so much.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you.
Adam, I'd like to share a wonderful comment from the chat.
Yeah.
Let me make sure I got this all up. Okay. So this is from Sandra, and it says, on a personal level, a friend and I are talking about this, and we use words like commitment to sharing, commitment to saying what we need, commitment to be for each other, calling each other back when we are disappearing into ourselves. Our evidences are doing what we say we commit to. I carry this over into the bigger world as well. I thought that was an excellent display of what we can do to build that trust back. That disappearing into ourselves is something I've seen and I've done through this whole pandemic. It's so easy to do because we've lost so much social capacity that it's just so easy to do. And I think the commitment to connecting when we feel ourselves doing that is incredibly important.
That's awesome.
I love that. I love the accountability piece of it too. Like recognizing within that community that you're not alone in this, and having that commitment to kind of check in and be there to support each other. That's beautiful.
Accountability is that's the word right there. We can offer accountability to each other and call one another deeper and draw people out, in love, in care, and compassion. So that's, man, I don't think I could do much better than Sandra's suggestion there. So, yeah, thank you for sharing that, Sandra. That's a beautiful observation on how to live in community in a way that supports our search for and our search for trust. You know, trust in our community, strengthening trust that exists, but rebuilding it where it maybe has been broken. And I see a lot of that broken trust in our world right now. And I think we can be an example to the world in the way we live with one another, the way we care for one another, and listen, as Ashlyn, as you eloquently noted, truly listen to one another in order to understand. Not just to win an argument, not just to be right, but to truly understand one. Because that's the other, I think, real danger that we can fall into in our truth seeking is we may find truth, but we don't have understanding. We may be right, but we are treating one another wrong, and that loses its effectiveness, and the true thing becomes lost in the midst of it, because there's broken trust, there's broken relationships. Oh, this has been really fun. Thank you both for sharing and chat. You guys are awesome as always. I love the way we've been doing these conversations over the past year. I think it's revealed to me that our community is just full of incredible wisdom and insight and truth, honestly. And we can learn a lot from each other when we realize that God has made us all in God's image and reveals God's love and truth through each of us in beautiful ways. So thank you all for participating. So as we're kind of moving towards our close, I want to introduce our final song for the day. This is also played by our friend Amy Martin, and it's a song called "Slow Your Breath Down," which is by Mumford & Sons, and I think is a good reminder to not get so caught up in the rush of what's right, and instead to pause and breathe and practice patience. So, Amy, we'll enjoy your song. Thank you.
This chest is full of memories of gold and silver tears. I'll give you more to own all of this. I'll give you more than years. You were once a child of innocence, and I see you just the same. Your burdens couldn't weigh or lose a thing. But I'll tell you once again that you are always on the run.
Amy. She's just fantastic. Thank you. So it was brought to my attention, and I want to demonstrate some integrity and earn your trust. The song was not actually by Mumford & Sons. It was by a band called Future of Forestry. And Nancy lovingly checked me on that and demonstrated what community does. We hold one another accountable to what is right and true, and we admit our mistakes, and we do so with grace and love. So that was a wonderful example and a beautiful song to boot. So, well, friends, this has been a lot of fun. Thank you all for joining us on the chat, looking out for each other. Continue to connect with one another. If you're not part of a Plus group yet, I know they're still forming those, and those have been a great place for accountability and for truth-seeking and for demonstrating community support and love. So get connected with those. There's people in the chat that can help you. Join a Plus group if you're interested, or you can email Rise. And we hope that you'll join us again next week at exactly 10ish for our worship gathering. And so with that, I'm going to invite Ashlyn to share our final blessing.
May the peace of the Lord Christ go with you, wherever he may see you. May he guide you through the wilderness, protect you through the storm. May he bring you home rejoicing at the wonders he has shown you. May he bring you home rejoicing once again into our doors.
Amen. Friends, go in peace. Amen. We will see you next week.